to start. Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Is everyone ready to talk about finance on this fine Tuesday afternoon? Who else is excited?
Show me the money.
So it's great to meet y'all. I'm excited to share with you a little bit more about Proven Optics. My name is Nick Reed. I've been with Proven Optics for the better part of a decade, helping different organizations implement different IT financial management best practices, ITFM softwares, and ultimately trying to enable groups to help run IT like a business. Joining me today is Colin Holmes.
Thanks, Nick. Hello, everyone. My name is Colin. I'm a solutions director here at Proven Optics. So it really is my job to gather your requirements, figure out what your process is today, and then build enterprise-grade solutions and process around that. I've been working on the ServiceNow platform for 10 years. So subject matter expert on platform, helping out at Proven Optics to really take a lot of legacy process, Excel-heavy process like budgeting, and move it onto platform. So excited to be here and talk to you about what we've done today with a lot of our successful clients.
Today's conversation, we're going to focus on how we can help automate and centralize that budgeting and forecasting process onto the ServiceNow platform and into the Proven Optics applications and modules. But before we talk about Proven Optics, I want to start with maybe a little bit of a trend, what we're seeing in the space. Part of the reason we're all here, technology is continuing to grow as important. And it's a core capability now for organizations to be able to deliver to the business, to be able to enable digital transformation, growth, and ultimately making sure that we can start to meet the business needs of tomorrow. And so, because of that, what we're starting to see from our friends at Gartner, and this is actually, as of last week, it's out of date, it's actually 17% growth is what we're seeing from increased IT budgets. And so, when we think about this, IT organizations, they really need to act as investment managers. You're responsible for one of the largest investments the organization and the company that you're with is making. And so when we think about this process in doing IT financial management, the ways that we used to do it in spreadsheets and other point solutions, right, they're not gonna help us get to where we need to go tomorrow to really help enable that IT financial management practice of the future. What does that start to look like? How can I start to integrate this financial capability and really make sure that as we're giving this investment up to that 17%, that we're being good stewards of the investment, we're maximizing the return for our customers, and ultimately helping drive the business forward as a result. So when we think about our customers and what they're doing and the outcomes they get to experience on the platform, one of the number one things, and it's the most surprising stat, we're doing budgeting in the budget process 65% faster than in Excel. A lot of groups today, every finance team, everyone's got their Excel sheet. Everyone loves it. It's very easy to use. It's easy to work with. But being able to lift this into a tool, Proven Optics was able to facilitate enterprise scale process for IT within a relational database without all the flexibility of Excel. Part of this is not just we're bringing data and putting it in the platform, we're actually taking the entire business process and we're lifting it into ServiceNow. It's how we're able to start to bring in workflows. It's how we're able to create connections to other ServiceNow modules like SPM and APM to not just help create financial data, but help create an asset as we think about financial data that's integrated with all the other different pieces and parts of our organization. Being able to meet our savings targets. We've all gotten the go get it number from the CFO, right? Or they go and say halfway through the year, I need y'all to go help me find an extra $3 million, $5 million, $10 million. And now, as the finance, we have to go figure out where am I going to pull that from, right? When we think about our app, when we think about some of the outcomes and how we structure and capture the data, our customers are able to start to turn around and share. These are my low priority lists. This is where I can actually go to cut money today that's not going to affect my run operation, but it is now providing our leaders with decision levers to actually just say, what am I going to invest, not invest, and de-invest as we think about that overall decision process. And the third bit, the CIO doesn't have to be afraid of the CFO anymore. They can now come and start to share. I was given $160 million to go spend, as an example, and I was able to finish within 0.01 of that budget, within 16 grand. Every CIO would kill for that opportunity. And so that process, being able to have the ServiceNow and Proven Optics system of engagement and the system of insight allowed for our customer to be able to now start to execute on their strategy, giving their team a way to come into the tool, start to see the outcomes, and ultimately start to make decisions against that so they can meet their financial commitment. So what are some of the key challenges that we see for organizations as we think about the budgeting process and that forecasting process? There's really two key elements that we see. The first is the manual management. We're sending emails, we're sending Excel sheets, we're sending data, vast amounts of information flying across in an unstructured, ungoverned manner. That also is starting to then lead to the actual data entry. There's not a governance process in Excel to say, well, here's your 4 items that you get to pick from, and you can't add a new column, right? There's a lot of different new information we get back from our stakeholders, which is great, but it's hard to be able to then Excel jockey all that information from Excel sheets from 30 different teams to come up and answer the question for the CIO. This is where our budget's starting to look like. That answer shouldn't take 6 weeks. The answer should be done in an afternoon. Where are we at? How are we starting to look? This challenge around the manual management starts to create distrust in the data. I don't know if it's the right result. It's taking way too long to get the answer. Are we making up the answer, right? The other key element we see here is the different siloed systems. We see fragmented information. We see data sets that don't have all the right pieces. And we're asking our leaders to be able to sit back and look across 4 different systems and answer the question of, how do I make a decision on, should I invest, should I de-invest, what's the right thing to do? Ultimately, these two things drive towards the misalignment of IT spend to business strategy, where we're spending a lot of money in areas that might not be necessary, might not be needed, and ultimately are probably not the right areas that, as an IT group, that we should be spending our time or spending our money. So when we think about this process, we start to think about how it happens on platform. These are some of the common elements that we see. We have to do data capture, reporting, analysis, forecasting, approvals, and audit. We do all these things, right? It's a core part of the process. But what Colin is going to share a little bit more information about is, when we think about doing this improvement optics, what does that end user experience start to look like? And how does that ultimately start to drive some of the best practices and outcomes that our customers are looking for to really make sure they're helping run IT like a business?
Awesome, thanks, Nick. So my part of the presentation, we're really gonna look into a couple of screenshots. Wish it was a live demo, but I can't give one up here. Come see me by the booth and I'll give you a live demo. But some of the screenshots of what the product looks like and how we're actually doing this for customers, how we're actually driving these outcomes and kind of landing that plane. It really all starts with the formulation process. So the reports you're seeing on the screen is around some of the approval workflow that we can drive around that budget capture process. Again, today, if you're doing that in Excel, in SharePoint, et cetera, it's hard to drive a standardized process. You're probably doing that through budget interviews via phone call, email, et cetera. And a lot of our clients are budgeting in an outward process, meaning they're sending templates out to service owners, to department heads, to branch chiefs, et cetera. And, or even worse, they're having those department heads or branch chiefs send them their Excel information that's not standardized at all. You then have a budget analyst gathering all of those spreadsheets, putting them together, consolidating, and trying to make sense out of all of the different data sets. We turn that process completely on its head as a best practice. We bring all of the stakeholders into the tool in one centralized manner, which would be like a ServiceNow form or portal view, which we'll show here. We have some cool Excel-like views that make it feel like home for most of our budget stakeholders that are used to using Excel. If you can't beat them, join them, right? Just bring Excel into the tool. So I'll show you what that kind of looks like. But the idea is once we have all of that information centralized on the platform, we're bringing our stakeholders into the tool, we can put it through a centralized workflow. So when Nick's talking about what is our budget starting to look like, right? You're able to see what's on the wish list, what's in draft, what's actually been requested, the initial budget request, what's actually been sent through for approval, what's gonna get funded this year, how does that break out across all of my departments, impacts, et cetera. You can really start to slice and dice the data with any of that metadata you're capturing that you want your stakeholders to come in and inform in that budget form. And that's of course gonna be tailored to you. Next slide. And I think the outcome of that really is, as Nick mentioned, 65% faster. Actually, one of our clients this year saved 1,500 man hours in their budget cycle process, and they're planning to do that again next year. So, year over year, time savings to go do higher value activities than sitting and writing spreadsheets, right? The second piece of this, once we have our budget formulated, what do we do? What are the decisions we're gonna make? Where are we gonna make cuts if we have that go get it target? Where are we going to push back in the business and ask for more dollars, et cetera? We have a best practice approach that we call influence levers, decision levers in the platform. So we group them into high, medium, or low. And all this is essentially a matrix of what makes an expense type to you low influence to change, right? These are things like depreciation, amortization, labor costs, things that you really can't change. Year over year, these costs are gonna be roughly the same. By the way, that's 70% of most organizations' budgets. So when you get that 2% target to go cut, you're not even cutting from 100% of your budget, you're cutting from 30% of the budget that you can actually manage. That's your medium or high influence lever, right? So we can group that in dashboards and drill in to start to see, exactly where I can go make those cuts when I'm asked, and that really expedites the process. So one of our clients, right, was able to take that methodology, take this dashboard to a meeting, and get 10% of extra funding for the year on their $100 million IT budget, and they were able to justify all of their current spend. They're doing analysis and kind of seeing the budget data in a new way like this. We're able to prove and push back that 90% of the reason that they needed the extra money in the first place was due to the business, through M&A activity. The business went out and did a bunch of merger and acquisition activity, so they had all these volume increases across their business, yet the same budget. They're like, well, how do you expect me to support 3 additional business units with the same budget, right? And they were able to kind of show that story. Everyone did that within an hour meeting. So secure $10 million additional dollars, secure and justify all of their current spend, as well as dictate where we could move the lever, right? Those high influence levers if we needed to meet that CFO target. So a couple best practice ways of, again, that we're capturing extra metadata in that formulation process to expedite decision-making of where you want to prioritize your dollars. These are the Excel-based views I was mentioning. Right, so whether that's the formulation process, splitting out monthly, quarterly, annually targets, using tab, being able to add comments, do Excel-like functions, copy and paste, all within the platform, right? This is all being synced in the back end to that relational database. This example that you're seeing on your screen is actually a forecasting example. You'll notice grayed out values. So the tool is very good at reconciliation. We have a process that we call budget key definitions, which essentially is any metadata you're capturing on your formulation process and any metadata you have in your GL or your financial transaction you're coming in. We essentially can make a match there, a unique match saying that if these 3 fields match, account number, project, and vendor, for example, 3 fields that might also exist in your GL, at the end of the month, you're gonna upload 1,000, 10,000 expense lines potentially. The system's gonna automatically run through all those and match where it can to the budget record. So that reconciliation process will be automated, hopefully, 70, 75% right off the bat, and then you have the manual matching process from there, but that's saving organizations a ton of time from a reconciliation standpoint. Once you have actuals on the platform, you can do really cool things. You can actually do intelligent forecasting, right? So we have 7 different forecasting methodologies in the platform today, so there's kind of one for everyone. And I'll let you in a little secret. It's not really a secret. Businesses stink at forecasting, and that's not really any reason other than probably a multitude of factors, but views like this, marrying my actuals and giving my service owner or somebody that's close to the expense data a way to easily forecast out and auto-generate a lot of those numbers based on a standardized methodology. And again, having that central place for them to go to do that work really helps with the forecasting process today. If that's done in something like Excel, that forecasting process can be really hard. So With this type of methodology, one of our most mature forecast customers was able to hit within 100% of their CFO target, right, on a $100 million budget. So that's, $10,000. They came under plan because they were able to implement cost controls quickly, right, using forecasting and getting views. If you go to the next slide, Nick, like this, which is like a forecasting dashboard, I can see my budget trend line in the pink, my actuals to date, and then everything in yellow being my future. If that yellow bar spikes above my budget at any time, I can drill in, I can see exactly what forecast lines, what service line that came from, go have a conversation with them, transfer money in or out, and really get out in front of that overrun, right? So in summary, we've talked about time savings, justifying the dollars, and then being able to kind of get out in front of cost overruns using forecasting. What's this all lead to? 54% of CIOs this year, their top initiative is increasing operational margins, right? So what are we doing for businesses? A lot of our clients that are using Proven Optics are decreasing their OpEx expense 2% year over year using the tool, right? So that's a year over year process that you're able to start cutting down on that operational expense because you can identify fluff in the budget. You can make sure you have enough money to go reinvest in higher initiative areas like emerging technologies, AI, cloud, etc., decreasing some legacy costs of other applications. All of that leads to that increased operational margin that a lot of CIOs are after. So that is some of the views of the solution. Happy to, again, come find us at booth 2, and I'll be the one that will take you through a demo of the live product. But back over to Nick for now.
Thanks, Colin. So these are some of the key drivers that Colin talked about. One of the ones he didn't touch on, that's probably one of the most beneficial things that we see, is the audit ability. ServiceNow natively does a great job of audit logs, but when we think about Proven and we think about the workflow process that we're driving, we're able to create visibility into every single change. We can see when Colin edited a field, what field he edited, the previous value, the current value, and the timestamp behind it. Gone are the days of, that's not my number, I don't recognize that. We've never heard that before. So being able to think about how we can use the tool not only to help do our business, but then help to then track and manage the business, right? This workflow capability is so important for organizations, especially when you're engaging with 30, 50, 100 people across the process, right? All the way down from an individual cost center owner through to the CIO and the CFO. And being able to make sure that we have an ability to track and understand the decision that was made, why it was made, so that way when Tim or Sally leaves in 6 months, we actually understand why we planned, why we budgeted for that, right? We're not just renewing these pieces of software, renewing these contracts just because it's part of our budget, right? I think one of the other key drivers is one of the benefits of Proven Optics and how we're built on ServiceNow. The way I talk about our applications is that we're all familiar with downloading Chase to our personal iPhones to manage our own financials. We work the exact same way on ServiceNow. Groups can download our application to their environment and be able to use it within their ServiceNow instance. You wouldn't even know actually it's Proven Optics unless you asked. It looks like, feels like, breathes like ServiceNow. And this allows us to do 2 key things that really sets our solution apart. One is that we're able to connect our financial data in our budget and forecast app with any other data set on platform. That includes project data, that includes asset data, that includes information from our services and service catalog. You can start to really create a very rich piece of information. So when we get those taskers throughout the year, how much does this cost, or why is this what's the total cost of this application? You can start to have that base financial data that's now interconnected with your finance process, with your actual run the business of IT process. The other key thing here is that big blue box, the ServiceNow platform, we're all here today, right? ServiceNow is a low-code, no-code platform. Doing IT finance on a low-code, no-code platform allows you to tweak and modify the data structure very easily to make sure that it's fit for your organization. Budgeting is the perfect use case. Every single person in this room has a different column of data that you want to capture during your budget process. That's okay. I might not have that out of the box on day one, but it's very easy to go use the low-code, no-code architecture and say, I need to go add this priority field or this other key metadata point. to the structure, make it a required field, so when our users come in and execute the workflow and fill out the form, we get that data right the first time. We can memorialize that ultimately as part of our process. Proven Optics, we do IT financial management. I think really what this slide is trying to speak to, IT finance is agnostic of industry. There's groups across the board that have the same types of challenges and the same types of problems. The example that I use most commonly, a server doesn't know if it's in oil and gas, if it's in healthcare, or if it's in manufacturing. All that knows is I'm a Linux server, right? And so when we think about this process and we think about this capability, what Proven Optics really offers is a way to be able to bring our financial data on platform and be able to then start to marry that with our operational data sets to really help bring together finance and operations to really help run the business of IT ultimately. With that, I want to go ahead and open up the floor, see if there's any questions or thoughts from the group here.
You mentioned there is an integration with interoperability with SPM. Can you speak to that a little bit more? Because there's a finance component.
Yeah. Yeah. So SPM does a great job of the project financials and being able to track and manage those. I think two of the key features, or really the three that separate our app from SPM, is our workflow process around the financials. Our workflow is not wrapped around the project, it's wrapped around the actual approval of the financial dollars. We also have an automated actuals reconciliation, and we have forecasting and multi-year forecasting. These three things are enhancements that we come with our budget application that oftentimes are coupled together with SPM. We had a client go live last week, and they bought SPM and Proven Optics side by side because there were some complex financial requirements they needed to manage on platform, and Proven Optics was able to satisfy those and be able to help now answer the question of how can we do more on platform versus we do this part on platform, we do this part somewhere else, we do this part somewhere else, as an example. I think someone else had there.
Do you have a security model you can apply to your tables? Obviously, some of this data, especially you start talking resource data, employee data, could get sensitive.
Mm-hmm. So Proven Optics, we come with our own set of access control lists. They are unique to our application. So we are not built on top of SPM, we're built next to it. So our ACLs, we have one ACL that allows you to see the budget data. We have a separate ACL to see the labor data, right, that makes up the individual resources and their salaries, fringe benefits, bonus, all that type of stuff. And so we very well can sync down to that level to the point of field level access. So we inherit that ServiceNow best practice access control list, come with our own roles and groups to help facilitate that process.
How long does it take to implement this framework?
That's a very loaded question.
We all wanna know.
I would say most commonly it's 12 to 16 weeks, right? Depending on your use case, right? So I think for the biggest thing that I think about for teams when you're planning for this type of function, my first question is when's your budgeting process, or when's the first time you're gonna use this thing, right? Because we talked about three different pieces of the app: budgeting, actuals, and forecasting. We've had customers in the past, not committing, this is how fast we can do it for you. We've had customers, we've deployed the budgeting portion of the app in 3 or 4 weeks, right? And then you tack on actuals reconciliation, you tack on forecasting. And so the bigger question that I always ask and try to marry together is, tell me when you want to use this in your business process, and let's figure out what incremental release makes the most sense for you.
You've talked about this specifically in the IT scope. Do you see your organization spreading it out to the rest of the company from a process from a budget and planning standpoint?
Absolutely. I would say just like ServiceNow, right? Probably 80% of our customers are IT focused. But at the end of the day, a dollar, a euro, it doesn't know if it's in IT or if it's in the business. Same process, same principles can apply. And we're starting to see more and more customers extend that use case. A lot of times groups start with IT because IT has its own special needs around financial management. And they'll then grow that use case to the CFO and say, this has actually been a really good POC. Can I look at this enterprise-wide maybe, right? So yes, to answer the question.
Yep.
So with regards to like, you know, you were mentioning the end user, how it's, you know, you got Excel functionality and everything in there, which is great. Could we, like, for example, you know, we're looking at the budget throughout the year. Can we put up like alerts and everything for a user to say, hey, you're over on your budget this month and everything, and it just automatically goes to them, and then they gotta do it? Is there that kind of functionality within it?
Absolutely. So that's the beauty of, I would say, being on the low-code, no-code platform is coming in, and that's why we do services, right?
Yeah.
So we come in during that engagement, and those are exactly the requirements we would capture of like,
Yeah.
oh, you want to send a push notification
Yeah.
to this user interface for this user when I see we are halfway through the year and you're 70% the plan, right? You got to slow down your burn. You're going to burn, right? So it's like whatever that push notification needs to say. You know, that's where we come in and tailor that. But absolutely, those are common configurations, business rules, additional workflow
Yeah.
steps, notifications, etc., to really make sure reports, right? Those different dashboards for different users, groups. Those are all things that we would come in and really tailor to you.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of the point solutions out there can't really do because what you see is what you get. That's the beauty of being powered by ServiceNow.
Got it. And then just a follow-up to that, you were saying, so you can set up the alerts customly, which is great. Is there still, so with this, is there an import-export option for the people who might say, hey, I still want to do this in Excel, and you know, all of that, is that functionality kind of in there as well too?
Yeah, very robust ETL, so extract, load, transform, all of that capability that's native to the platform, again, we can leverage. So whether it's importing data from Excel, exporting it back to Excel, PDF, JSON, whatever that file type is, very easy for us to do. We also have customers that do like custom UI pages, right? That like get real fancy with the exports of like styling it and everything. So it kind of just depends on again what you want to do and when. But absolutely the capability is there. Yeah, good to my question.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go over here.
Is there integration with ServiceNow's contract lifecycle management?
Yes, absolutely. The best part is it's not even integration, it's just a reference, right? And so you can build on our budget form. A lot of times, like when they integrate with SPM or PPM, we're creating a reference to the project, and when that record gets submitted, a record producer is actually going to go write that record to the project, so you can see it in the project view and form. Because that's the next question is, yes, you can connect it, but how can I see it in one user experience and not go to different places on the platform? I'm being told that I have to stop. So, Colin and I will be outside after the session. We'll also be back downstairs at our booth on the showroom floor if anyone wants to ask questions and learn more. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.